Hickok 45 with 2 6 guns. Does that mean I had one 12 gun? I think they're empty. Yes, Hickok 45 with 12 empty cases, 38 special. Oh yeah, we just hung on to this because we want to do a little comparison. That's all this is. As you can tell from the title, you know, $200 revolver versus $800 revolver. That's what we're really looking at, and it just dawned on us that this is about a $200 revolver, this RIA. I mean, 214 or 13 or something, at least at Bud's this one was. And prices vary, you know, they do. It might be another dollar or dollar less or something, I don't know, if I ordered one today from Bud's or elsewhere. And in the Kimber, I think runs around $850 actually, this model of the K6S. And so one thing that comes up constantly, you know, amongst you all and everybody that is involved with firearms, and particularly people that maybe haven't been in firearms as long, is what is the difference? You know, why do people pay so much for some firearms, you know? And is that cheaper firearm? Excuse me, less expensive firearm? Please forgive me for my the connotations of the words I might use. Cheap has negative connotations, doesn't it? But anyway, more inexpensive and, you know, versus expensive. So, you know, do they work? What's the difference? And to be honest, disclaimer, you know, some things I'm not so sure about. You know, we could argue about MIM parts, you know, and steel strength and the steel that is used in Italy on some of those firearms, you know, the clones of Colt clones and the cowboy guns and all that. You know, people criticize the quality of steel sometimes it's used. Others say, no, it's just as good as our steel. And then in the Philippines where the RI, you know, so some of that, yeah, I'm not sure. The verdict is not totally in. A lot of people have information or opinions on it, so just do your research and I'll kind of let you know what I think. So we're just going to kind of give you some of the differences that I'm aware of, we're aware of on say these two, and I've got a couple other we'll bring in a little bit, but as far as about $600 difference, that's what you're looking at right here with this K6 Kimber. And I'm not doing this to make fun of Kimber for making an expensive gun. This has nothing to do, it could be any other firearm, any other revolver that is in that price range, okay? But this is a nice revolver, and it's $800 or plus, you know, in cost. Same with the RA. Not making fun or bashing the Rock Island Armory revolver at all. We have videos on both of these firearms. It's just that it's kind of interesting because there is such a contrast in price here. Okay, and they're both, you know, shoot 38 specials. You know, this one will shoot magnums as well. All right. So some of the differences, I kind of start with the superficial differences, and this is just mostly, I don't know, my opinion or, you know, based on my experience, and hopefully most of it's factual. How's that? Or close to being factual. So we'll start with kind of the superficial differences, obvious differences, okay? And the most obvious difference is with this really nice Kimber versus this really low-end Rock Island Armory, the biggest difference is what are people going to think about you if you're carrying this gun, okay? That's important. What are they going to think of you if you're carrying this gun? Are they going to be impressed or not? So how impressive your firearm is to your fellow shooters and friends, that's the most important thing, right? Just joshing you, but yeah, well, you know, pride of ownership and all that falls under that. So just kidding a little bit. But let's start with some of the superficial things. Well, it's important though. Fit and finish. All right, fit and finish. Obviously you get a difference if you're paying more money. This is stainless, and I think stainless is a little harder to work with. Not dramatically. A lot of inexpensive guns are made of stainless, of course, but this is really finished, kind of a brushed finish. And as part of the finish, I'll include the melting effect. You know, there's no sharp edges. Look at that. So, you know, when more money is involved, you're able to do that. The contours, just really nice. On this one, they're able to, of course, kind of an innovative design on this Kimber. They cut down the cylinders so it would take up less, or would have less width. So that's kind of an interesting thing. And in this particular revolver, it holds 6 shots, and it's not much bigger than a J-frame Smith & Wesson. So that took some engineering and the grinding and the honing down to get all those soft edges. It's totally snag free except for the hammer on this one. I meant to have my other one out here. It doesn't have the hammer, but you get a basically snag free firearm. Okay, so that's part of the fit and finish. This one, you got what, parkerized finish. Okay, not a lot of polishing involved in that. Not a lot of deep bluing like you might find on a Python or something, or a Smith & Wesson. So, your finish is going to be a difference. Fit, I don't see any major problems with the fit on this one. If you look at the crane up here, how it fits together, there's not some gigantic gap or anything. But you can usually count on better fit. This particular model is it's pretty impressive in terms of the fit you get for the money. For a little over $200, we have not noticed any problem with, you close the cylinder once and it kind of hangs up, or it's sliding around on you or something. The fit is not all that bad. You can see some tool marks and that sort of thing. I don't know if that's really fit and finish, but it kind of is. But it's a $200 firearm that's parkerized. But so you don't get as nice a finish, we'll say. It's exactly what they meant for the finish to be. Yeah, okay. You maybe have some sharper edges. It takes time and some machining and maybe some handwork to really work things down. You notice the trigger guard, it's a lot smoother around the edges and that kind of thing. Trigger is nice. It's just nice. This Kimber is just nicely finished. Okay. Again, we're not just comparing Kimber and Rock Island Armory. I could pull one of these Smith & Wessons in here. This is a Model 19. It's an older one that's basically like the new ones. You got a smooth trigger. You got a nice finish. The fit and finish is very nice. Same with let's see, this newer Smith & Wesson 69. This runs like $750, not totally $800, but just a kind of a rounded cylinder. Just enough work goes into the finish to make it pretty nice, even though we could criticize this firearm for the key lock and the sleeve barrel and that sort of thing. But just a nicely finished gun, good fit, so, and again, $700-800 on a gun like that. Same with a 617, just a nicely finished firearm. That's what you get when you put more money into the firearm as far as fit and finish. You usually get better grips too. We got some, I forget what that is, rosewood or walnut, but nice wooden grips, nicely finished with checkering and everything. You even got the Kimber logo on it. So you get more expensive grips. And grips like that, I've bought a lot of aftermarket grips at gun shows or ordered them, Eagle Grips or whoever. That alone, those can be like half the cost of this Rock Island Armory pistol. They really can. It's easy for them to be $75-80 for a set of that. So you're more likely to get something other than rubber grips, all right? And the grip fit, too. Now, this could be a $400 gun. This could be a $700. Get lots of comparisons in between. And the grip fit could be even different. And we'll talk a little more about that. One thing I don't want to forget, too, is that we appreciate the help of APMEX. Look at that big 10-ounce bar of silver. Is that cool or what? So we appreciate the help from them. Check out the description. You'll see links to atmex.com as well as our favorites page, in our description. Some of John's and my favorite, at APMEX, things maybe we've ordered, just we like. So appreciate their help. With anything I say, there's different levels. Everything is not 200 or 800 because those are kind of the extremes. But you could even have wooden grips, on a low-end revolver. But maybe the wood's not as nice. It's just some nondescript wood. There's no checkering maybe. And maybe the fit to the metal is not even that good, as the Kimber. So obviously there's gray areas, okay? And another difference, of course, the actual name brand. That's kind of a factor in terms of resale. There we go, pride of ownership. I mean, we don't... I really like firearms that just work. That's why I've never been opposed to a Glock from day one. When I saw how well they worked and didn't care how ugly they were, they appealed to me. Okay? But name brand is a factor in pride of ownership. Let's face it. After you got a couple of firearms, everything else is kind of a luxury, right? Right? And so we like nice things. We like firearms that are built well and all that sort of thing. And so sometimes name brand does make a difference, like car you drive or the watch you wear, if you wear a watch, or just whatever it might be. But, and then of course, if you're going to sell a Colt, it's going to sell better, or a Kimber, than a Rock Island Armory. It's going to be maybe easier to move, maybe not. I don't know, it just depends. If somebody looking for an inexpensive gun, Rock Island Armory would sell, depending on reputation. So name brand gets into reputation, obviously. That's the main reason why name brand's important, to get right down to it. And then where they're made, one difference is, it doesn't have to be a difference. There's some nice, expensive firearms, of course, made overseas. Overseas is relative, right? If you're watching this from England, we're overseas. But these are made in the Philippines, the Rock Island Armory. And, less expensive labor. And so that makes a big difference. And it might also make a difference in whether or not you want to buy it, all right? So they're made in various places, and that's just kind of what's happening in the firearms industry these days. Whether it's a Winchester, a Browning, or whatever, they're made all over the planet now. Okay, and so you have to decide whether that bothers you or not, or where it's made. But that's one difference. Quite often, with like Smith and Wesson, Colt, different revolvers, they're made in this country, and that may be one reason they're more expensive, right? But that is a difference. That's one reason that this firearm costs less. Okay, so that's just a fact. Warranty, you sometimes get a much, better warranty with a more expensive firearm, but not necessarily. The reverse of that can be true. For example, this $200 firearm, actually, I think, now correct me if I'm wrong, has a better warranty than Kimber probably. This, I think, has a lifetime warranty. Again, I think based on whoever owns it. It's not just the original purchaser, I believe. So, there you go. I think the Kimber is the original purchaser, and for like a year or two or something. Okay, parts and labor, whatever, for the first year or second year, I'm not sure. So, I think this firearm actually has a better overall warranty. Now, it might also be more likely to break or wear out. Who knows? And that is true for any kind of warranty. It's easier to give a warranty, a really good warranty on something that was really cheap to make. If you think about it, you can afford to replace it much easier, right? Okay, so that is not necessarily a factor of a more expensive gun. It could be either one. Just depends. Customer service ties into that, and that doesn't seem to be necessarily tied to how much you paid for the firearm. Some of you have input on that. I'm sure many of you have a lot of input on the things we're talking about here, and feel free to share your opinions on all of this and make it a kind of an education for people, because quite often, the warranties and all that kind of thing, and the customer service, one company like Colt, Smith & Wesson, or companies you consider being about the same, they might have a vast difference in their customer service. You'll see people really complaining on the internet about so-and-so's customer service, and you wouldn't expect that, a respectable company, with a good reputation. So that's a difference. So let's get to the actual gun, the sights on a gun that's more expensive. You're more likely to be able to have night sights on it, like this one has. Okay? I believe this has night sights. Not just 3 dots. These are just a 3 dot. Now my little K6 has night sights, but I think this one's just a 3 dot. But you got really nice sights on there. See where they're melted in, very clear. Some people might think they look too much like a Glock, but really nice sights for a carry gun. Okay, and then night sights. Most of these come with night sights. I guess those are not. I didn't even think about that. I just assumed they were, but I think they're not on this one. So you get really nice sights. Or you can, because it's more expensive. And you see on this one, here's where you cut costs, of course. You just cut a groove, and you don't even have any kind of insert or anything. You could put some paint up there. I mean, you can make do. You've heard me talk about fixed sights. I like fixed sights if they're on, and that would do just fine. But that's one reason they cost less. Okay. Oh man, trigger. Now with trigger, you can have a big difference there because of the cost. $200 versus $800 firearm. However, with this Rock Island Armory, that's not a bad double action at all. it might stack a little bit, have just a little roughness about it. This one's very smooth, and I don't feel any real stacking. So you get more trigger work. The single action on these are, this one I remember is very nice. Feels almost like a Smith. And a Smith usually has a good single action, and so does this one. Not much difference at all on the single action trigger pull. Double action, you can feel the smoothness. Okay, so less hand work on a firearm like this, or maybe no hand work. And that's one point to make about the difference when we're talking about it. I would guess, I could be wrong, but like 50 years ago, 60, 70 years ago, firearms that were this different in price range, there might have been more difference mechanically than there is today. Why? Well, with CNC machinery now, computer assisted, manufacturing and everything, there's really no reason why you can't make even a pretty inexpensive firearm pretty consistently, and the parts match up and it'd be pretty consistent. So that's a plus for a cheap gun, really. Just like Rock Island Armory or anybody's cheap 1911s, the parts are what they are, and we're able to create and machine things in a precise way. All right, and so trigger, this one has a little bit better trigger, but the other one's not horrible. This cheap gun does not have that bad a trigger. And the mechanics, let me show you the mechanics. Let me put some more ammo in. I think in terms of the mechanics and the operation of them, again, there's not a lot of difference. And that's a compliment to this Rock Island Armory. It's a compliment because I was expecting this firearm to just be really cheap and not operate well, but we've had no issues with it. I'm gonna shoot double action. Boom. It's just mechanically very sound, okay? And it's not quite as smooth, but it's very sound mechanically, and that's very important. How they operate, the reliability. I'll just put 4 in there. Let's see, the Kimber goes, no, yeah, it's like a Smith. Now this one going double action is a little smoother. But, nothing to write home about. You're not going to pick up one of them, that's horrible, and that one's great, okay? So mechanically, and when I say mechanically, that includes, just the operation, closing the cylinder, cocking it, does it snag or anything at all like that, ejecting the ammo, is there any issues, all the tolerances and measurements seem okay, and I don't see any problem with that. Again, CNC machinery strikes again, I think. There should not be a dramatic difference. If we were relying on all handwork on both of these, then obviously for this price difference, you wouldn't have as much handwork in this one. You just wouldn't be able to afford it, okay? So this one, you can see, looks good. That's important. It looks really good. Reliability wise on these two, just let me say, and I'm not going to get into a big discussion about MIM parts or even inferior steel. I have read on this to some extent. I know I've read that one reason you can make a firearm less expensively is softer steel is easier to work on. It's easier to mill. The tools you use to mill and work on it can be less expensive. They don't have to be resharpened or replaced as often. That there's just a lot of money to be saved if you're not working with that hardest steel. Okay, so again, though, I'm not sure how that applies to this specific firearm, but it's something to be aware of with an inexpensive firearm that's really inexpensive. So how's that tie to reliability? Well, this thing has worked great, but who knows? As far as longevity, it could be that if we set out to fire 5,000 rounds, that'd take a while, wouldn't it, through a 6-shot revolver, that maybe the Rock Island Armory would just make it to 3,000. I don't know. Or if we have both these and you shoot them and carry them for the next 10 years, maybe the Rock Island Armory would warp out on you and it just wouldn't be as mechanically sound. Some of maybe the MIM parts would be breaking. You'd have to replace after 3, 4, 5 years. I don't know that. If you have opinions on that, especially if they're based on any knowledge or fact, share. Be glad to hear. because that old business of MIM parts gets knocked around a lot, and it's probably overrated. And it goes on that same topic. Are you carrying this firearm for self-defense? Is it a self-defense pistol, or is it just a range gun? If it's just a range gun, then MIM parts, steel that only lasts 10 years, none of that's quite as important, is it? For 200 bucks, buy another one, in 7 years, all right? But now if it's a carry gun, you don't want it to fail at the wrong time. And that makes it maybe more worthwhile to, invest a little more money in it, okay? If you're wary about that, all right? So anyway, reliability, longevity, kind of hard to determine that for sure, isn't it? But some of you may have experience with it. You may have bought this M200's been out for several years with various configurations. You might have had a firearm like this or this one out, for the last 10 years, and you've actually done some of that testing. You've fired it enough times, you have a valid opinion about that, or some, actual experience. Accuracy, my gosh, with a defensive pistol, not enough difference to write home about. It could be this is just as accurate as the Kimber, the expensive revolver. I didn't notice any problems with accuracy with either one of them as we did videos with them. And you can check the videos. I'll put a link to both of them. There's no issue standing and shooting that you will determine in terms of a difference in accuracy. It's just that simple. Unless you are a lot more solid than I am when you stand and shoot. They both seem to shoot just great, okay? They really do. And that comes under ergonomics and sight too. They both feel good. This firearm, actually, it sounds like I'm selling at Island Armory. It really feels better than you would expect. I think it's patterned after a Colt Police Positive, is that right? And it's a gun I've never owned. But the grip configuration and the ergonomics of it actually feels really good. So even though it's cheap, feels good. This one is expensive, and it feels fine. The grip is a little small for me, so it doesn't feel any better than the expensive firearm. And it might not to you either, okay? Other than the grip being a little, or the action being a little smoother and double action. So, so you get a nice operation on both of them. So kind of in summary, I think a lot of it comes down to the purpose, what you're going to be doing with the firearm. You're looking for a firearm, and you don't have a problem with the parkerized finish, or maybe it's a $300 or $400 pistol, like I said, revolver, and maybe it's a stainless finish. It's not all that different, So the finish is not an issue. You don't want a parkerized gun, but you still want a $300 or $400, maybe a Charter Arms or something that's a kind of a next level, perhaps money-wise. I think a lot of it is in purpose. What are you going to do with the handgun? As I said before, if it's a defensive pistol, you want to be careful about cutting corners, maybe. If it's a range gun, not that important. If you kind of like the pistol, I'm talking about myself. If I just wanted a revolver to shoot on the range, money's tight, I'd have no problem with this $200 pistol. I'm not going to be defending my life with it. If it breaks, something breaks, I'll see what it would cost to fix it, or just buy another one for $200. Wow, I mean, it costs half that to fill up your truck, gasoline almost. So it's not a big deal. But if it's a firearm you're relying on to protect your life, then I think all of us have a tendency to want to go ahead and put whatever extra money in that we can afford and that we feel is necessary, and get right down to it, right? So, and again, these other pistols over here, revolvers, they're kind of $700, $800, $900 range, depending on the firearm. Just nicer handguns in some ways, a better feel, a better name, easier maybe to resell, possibly would last longer, and I won't rehash all that, but we just want to give you an idea. What are you getting when you see that kind of difference in price? And those are some of the differences, just maybe the reliability, the fit and finish, those sorts of things. This one, another difference is it'll fire .357 Magnum, and it's a small gun. So, the metallurgy and everything is really good on that, okay? That could be part of the reason this is not chambered, and I don't think they even make it in .357 Magnum. So it could be an issue we talked about. They do allow plus P in these, but they don't recommend a steady diet of plus P in this 38 Special, as big as it is. So, again, something to think about. All right, so there you go. This will get you by. Man, I would buy this before a lot of other firearms. Some semi-automatics we won't talk about. I would rather put $200 in something like this. This seems like a quality gun. And this might not have been the best comparison in some ways, because this $200 pistol is pretty impressive for a $200 pistol, I have to say. So I don't know if that helps at all, but some people new to shooting they either they're totally confused about the differences, or their ego gets them in a little trouble and they're just convinced there's no difference. And that I've seen comments, yeah, anybody pays $800 for a 1911 is stupid, or $1,200 is stupid, or that kind of thing. So they just, because they're justifying the gun they bought or whatever. So somewhere in the middle, I try to address, there are some differences. Whether or not they matter to you, it's a different matter, right? So anyway, Spencer revolver, cheap revolvers, they both work. So glad you came by today. Appreciate you supporting the people that support us. Life is good.
Oh yeah, that's better. This is a great gun for defense. Oh hey, didn't see you guys there. While I've got you here, I want to remind you of our friends over at Talon Grips and Ballistol. Talon Grips makes grips, can you believe it, for all different types of firearms. You can get rough texture or more of a rubberized texture. It just sticks right on there. Really affordable, really cool option to improve the grip for your handguns or rifles. So please check them out at talongungrips.com. You'll be glad you did. And also Ballistol. Dad has been using Ballistol for many years. It's a cleaner and a lubricant, and it's non-toxic. It works really great, and we're happy to have them on board since it's been a part of our shooting endeavor for a very long time. So go to ballistol.com, talongungrips.com. And also, while you're out there, I'm juggling all these things here. Also, while you're on the internet, please do check out our other social media like Hickok45 on Facebook. There's also Hickok45 on Twitter, The Real Hickok45 on Instagram. There's a John_Hickok45 on Instagram where I do some things. There's Hickok45.com. You can find us also on Gunstreamer. So check out all that stuff and then watch more videos.